David Bator. David Bator, welcome.
Thank you.
How is your show going? Day 2?
Day 2. These are long days, but but they're great days.
I like the fact that it's your show.
It is. It belongs
The
to
whole thing.
me. Yeah, the whole thing belongs to me.
Sponsoring
And
the
I
whole
want to say
thing.
you're welcome.
He is now
welcome.
broke, can't
Yeah.
feed his family.
That's right. The struggle's real.
Worth it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Tell everyone a little bit about your role, Achievers, that people aren't aware.
Yeah, so I lead Achievers Workforce Institute, which is a team of workforce researchers and data scientists. And our project is to interrogate the conditions that need to exist at work so people can do the best work of their lives. We publish all the things we find into research and webinars and speaking events like this. So yeah, we really think and write about how work should work.
Yeah. What I love about that, when I first came across it, is, a lot of the companies here don't have anything remotely like a Workforce Institute.
Yeah.
What was the why behind why you and the team decided this was a good investment, and why?
Well, I think because one of the reasons is that our category, broadly speaking, when I think about the employee engagement category, there are lots of point solutions in it, and it's confusing for people. And so really our mission is to bring clarity to people who are buying our solution or thinking about buying our solution. And not just speak to the HR leaders, but also to hear from the voice of the employees. So that's really the why is how do we create conditions so people can do the best work of their lives?
Yeah. And then Bree, that's also where you come in, right?
Yeah, and we use the research to inform the development of our product roadmap. So we're not just only collecting customer input and throwing darts on a wall, but we're thinking about, 3, 5, 10 years out.
That's right.
And trying to get ahead of those curves. Right. And David, you have the lovely opportunity of sitting down with a lot of our customers. Yeah. Yesterday, you led an executive roundtable with some of the world's largest, most complex, or the leaders of some very large companies. And curious to kind of pick your brain about what you're hearing is top of mind.
Yeah, well, our focus of the roundtable was on how to better leverage recognition strategically to shape culture. And I think one of the things that I got from the 25 people around the table is many are still thinking of recognition as a thank you program. And what we know, not just from our research, but from the work that we do with our customers, is that it's so much more than a thank you program. And so it was interesting to pull out some themes around what folks are doing to connect recognition to different parts of the employee experience. I can't think of another technology that actually touches every part of the employee experience, whether it's from how we recruit to how we onboard to how we develop talent, then recognition. And so part of our mission here is to reframe for people that, recognition really is more than a thank you program.
You think that that's one of the most common misconceptions?
Absolutely. I mean, I sit across from total rewards executives who effectively pay the bill, and they think of recognition as a thank you program. I think part of it is also, there's a statistic from Gartner, I think from last year, that just 19% of HR leaders are connecting their investments in people programs to business outcomes. Mm-hmm. And so many of the things we build for our people, we build in these silos. And a part of our job is really to make connections for people on what they should be connecting their recognition program to.
Yeah. Could you share some examples, and Brie, I'd love to hear you as well, of that you've heard from customers? We had so many of your customers yesterday on the show sharing really tangible, kind of real moments that brought it to life. Could you share some of your favorite examples?
Yeah. I think of a number of them. I mean, I think of a customer of ours who's a telecommunications customer. Who really did a great job of connecting new sales offers to recognition. What they used to do within their call centers is that, to incent people to sell more of the new thing, they would drop gift cards. Yeah. And what they found was that really didn't have an impact. What they started to do was use recognition and a light reward, typically like $5. To recognize and reward the behaviors that really, really drove performance for them. And what it did for the rest of their organization was actually model for the entire organization what the desired behaviors were, what great looked like. So for a $5,000 investment for a new product, They were driving 300, 400% sales return,
Wow.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, doing the same thing, but just amplifying it in a scalable way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same award amount. The only thing that changed was the transparency
Yeah.
of the recognition and the timing of it and the frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
What's some of your favorite examples that you hear from customers?
So, a lot of our customers are kind of in austerity mode right now and evaluating, where there are redundant programs where they can kind of consolidate. And one of our customers, that's a large global manufacturing company, put out this survey where they were kind of inquiring with employees about what different programs they were using to kind of inquire, like, where can we kind of pull the plug?
Hmm.
And the CHRO of this organization just gave us the feedback, like, from that survey. There was literally a comment like, if you take away our Achievers program, there will be a riot on the shop
Yeah.
floor. And they were like, and we were just like, oh my. We talk about how our platform transforms culture, but it's like amazing to hear little nuggets
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it is not just a nice to have, it's a must have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We at HR Leaders get approached by many companies in this space.
Mhm.
What makes Achievers different?
There's a couple of things that I would say the primary thing is the frequency of recognition that happens on our platform. More is not always better, but in this case it is. And the reason it is that all of the research shows that the more frequently someone is recognized, the better they feel about their mental health, their engagement, their sense of belonging, their willingness to recommend their managers. So frequency has a big role to play in terms of how someone feels about the work that they do every day, but also that frequency is a protective factor for business outcomes. When someone is more frequently recognized, they're more productive at work, they're less likely to leave work. And so it's great that over 20 years we've been innovating and we have the highest used program in the category, but it didn't happen by accident. It's the science that actually drove our desire to build a platform that would be frequently used in the way that it is. So frequency is the thing we really hang our hat on. What would you say, Brie?
Yeah, I mean, Harvard found that out of all the things that can motivate a person during a workday, the single most important is having a sense of progress, like recognition. I mean, it's good to acknowledge milestones, but really what we focus on is celebrating those small wins and incremental progress that lead to, over time, big innovation and big outcomes. And that's where non-monetary recognition comes into the picture. It doesn't always have to be a reward. In fact, our research shows that when an organization is too rewards centric, it can backfire and actually cultivate more entitlement. So we work really closely with our customers to make sure that they're taking a healthy blended approach, and rewards are injecting an element of fun gamification instead of risking becoming, a demotivator and a distraction.
I got an interesting question yesterday during my roundtable, which is, well, isn't there such a thing as too much of a good thing? Isn't there
Too much recognition?
Doesn't too much recognition have a
Is that
diminishing
their thing?
return? And I said to the gentleman,
It's the way you do it.
it's a great question, but I reject the premise of the question, because the truth is that if recognition is just a parade of like pats on the back, it doesn't really mean anything. But what our customers do really well is they make sure that recognition is specific and personal and impact oriented. Timely. And so when you combine those things, it has a lot to do with how someone feels seen and valued and appreciated. And the other thing is that recognition can come from anywhere. In so many programs, it's still the manager that is
the main.
That's right. And because it's democratized,
And it's not a cross function.
that's exactly right. So anyone can recognize anyone for a job well done, and it has a big impact.
Yeah. What's one recognition moment from each of you that you will never forget personally?
Well, mine's a bad one, which is early in my career, the beginning of my career, I had an opportunity. I was working at a tech company. I had the opportunity to do special projects directly for the CEO of the business, which meant lots of overtime, hundreds of hours of overtime. And his way of acknowledging that contribution was he would drop a $5 coffee card. And as a younger person, I think I was insulted by everything, but I thought, you're valuing my effort at $5?
Because that's literally
Ouch.
what the it doesn't matter what he intended. That's what.
That's right. And that's not what I wanted. What I wanted was thank you. And I wanted feedback on what I was doing well and where I could improve. And actually, to this day, it's why I've never sent a monetary recognition to anyone. I use our boost functionality to boost recognition, but I never want anyone on my team or any of the other teams
This
to
is your
think,
value.
I think you're $5. So
That's a very good way of putting it.
yeah.
How about you, Bree?
Bree,
Well,
yours is a good.
So I'm approaching 10 years at Achievers, and 2 years into my tenure here, I had a customer ask me to do a custom training for them, which I normally try not to do because I'm chronically time poor, but I'm a recovering people pleaser who occasionally relapses. So I agreed. And although I was happy to do it, it ended up being one of those things where like the ask went from like this
Always
to
does.
this.
We need this.
And like, and very quickly I started, kind of feeling burnt out and telling myself some negative stories about me and my inability to like set good boundaries. And I was kind of feeling pissed off at me because I'm like doing this on top of my already really busy workload. And then the customer wrote an email to a senior leader at Achievers, like outlining all the stuff that I had done, twisting myself into knots to execute on this training. And this leader basically copied and pasted the email from the customer into a recognition and was like, basically saying all this stuff about how it's a shining example of how we're customer focused. And I got that email. This is like 2018, 2017. And I can still remember where I was sitting in the office when I got it, because it was like being struck by lightning. And instantaneously, all those negative stories like shifted. And I was like, you know what? I am amazing. Like, I love my job.
And look what you've
love
created.
doing
That's right.
custom trainings. I love that I'm the type of person that will like go above and beyond
Yeah.
to make sure our customers are getting what they need. I was like, I'm awesome. Like, what was I talking about? I suck.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
It's just like, yeah, it was like the
That's cool.
specificity of the recognition.
Right.
And talking and being clear about like, here's your unique impact and contribution to our mission, exhibiting our values. And then a bunch of my coworkers and stakeholders from across the business were commenting on it and boosting it. And I felt like an influencer going viral. My dopamine centers were lit. Hence why I'm talking about it 8 years
Your
after the
dopamine
fact.
and energy just went up
I was like,
during the
I was going around the
I didn't think it was
office,
possible,
like,
but
Is there like a recognition energy bar?
we should have a Bree meter.
Yeah, Bree meter.
Bree meter.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's not the first time you said that, right?
No, it is.
Oh, is it?
It is.
How is it taking
But I've
this-
been thinking about it for so long.
Bree
Yeah,
meter is-
the Bree meter.
It's just perfect.
Yeah.
We need to get Bree meter merch for you. One of the things I was thinking about, and this is before the days of amazing platforms like Achievers, is I worked in the same company for 10 years as a sales rep. 500 employees, in a large kind of corporate office. And every single time I did a deal for 10 years, the CEO would travel down from his office, walk through the entire sales floor, congratulate me personally.
Yeah.
And that meant more than any commission
Yeah.
or sale.
Absolutely.
And he did that for every single
That's
employee. And I'm not saying that's scalable, right?
No.
killing
But
it.
Andy did that, and there was no technology back then.
Yeah.
It's just like his way of being like, no matter whether you're day one or day 10 years, he gave the same level of appreciation, and didn't know how big the deal, how small the deal.
Yeah.
And I remember being so excited that when I got the deal, like, when's he coming?
Yeah.
When's he coming down?
Yeah, for
And like,
sure.
and that sounds silly, but like, 'cause I just made like thousands of pounds. I should be really excited
Yeah.
about that. But I was like, I'm gonna get recognized.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was recognition back then. I was just so young
In
and
front of all your
in
peers.
front of all my peers, right?
The transparency of that recognition moment.
Yeah. But on the flip side, on the negative side, I found out when I became a VP of sales, I used to do that to my team. And a few years in, one of my top sales executives, we used to do an awards. And he would win every single month. He was just incredible. A guy called Cameron. Cameron, shout out to you if you listen. And he pulled me to one side after a few months and said, I really hate being publicly recognized.
Right.
And I have a lot of anxiety every month that I know I have to go on stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
I just applied just because I like that to be recognized that way. I just assumed everyone. And actually, over the next few weeks, I had the one-on-ones with my team and asked them, how do you like to be recognized?
Yeah.
And every single conversation was different.
That's
And
right.
it was like an aha moment for me as a young leader.
Yeah.
To be like, wow, like not everyone wants the shiny lights. Some people prefer one-on-one to be recognized, and they don't care about the public. So I just wanted to add that in there. Beyond that, because I think there's something. When was the last time everyone listening, you asked, your employee how you like to be recognized? Something simple.
One of the things I write about quite a bit is this notion of choice as being one of the key conditions of the employee experience. And I think one of the good things coming out of the pandemic is we've especially for command and control organizations, we're leaving this era of one size fits all programs. And we're in this era of hyper personalization. For all the people at this show, it makes it way harder and way more expensive to build employee experiences. But when you build employee experiences that connect with how someone wants to be known, that we always talk about the golden rule, right? Treat others as you want to be treated yourself. That actually doesn't apply to the world of work. And so what leaders have to do is they have to create space to actually understand what makes someone tick, how they're motivated. Some people, they go to work and that's their world. Or some people, they're coin operated. Some people, it's a big part of their identity. As leaders, we have to get to know our people in that way and then tailor experiences that meet them where they are. It's harder to do, but it always pays dividends.
Before we let you guys go, what would be your parting advice for those early on their recognition journey? What advice would you give to HR
It's a
leaders?
big question.
It is a big question.
Advice.
Well, I think a couple of things. Is to be consistent and accountable. We did a study into manager effectiveness, and we found that just 34% of employees would recommend their manager. So whether or not, not good. So whether or not you accept the wisdom that people quit their boss rather than their company, that's startling. The 4 factors that we identified as driving manager effectiveness were frequent contact, frequent recognition, coaching, and career development. And so if you stick just on the recognition part, even just a monthly cadence for specifically recognizing someone for the contribution they have made has an enormous impact on their satisfaction, how they feel about work, whether they can be productive, and so on. We'd love it to be on our platform, but it doesn't have to be on a platform. I think what people should know is that just that consistent approach to recognizing the little things and the big things has a big impact. What about you, Bree?
Dave, you practice what you preach. He's my leader. He just recognized
look at
me
that.
this morning.
I did.
Points-based recognition. Yeah, it's like if I were to say, if I had a magic wand, and I would have anyone that is like early in their recognition journey thinking about how can I optimize employee appreciation, I would say make sure everyone, not just leaders and people and managers, but everyone across the business, ensure they understand the difference between praise and recognition. Praise is like a vague pat on the back that doesn't give people clarity about what they did that was good. And literally, no one wants more praise, not even Gen Z. In fact, it can be actually demotivating.
Would that be something like "good job"?
Yeah, like, good
way to go.
Basically.
Like good job. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean good job? I just finished this big deliverable, and you're giving me this vague praise. Like it can feel really bad. Recognition, on the other hand, should contain detailed information about exactly what a person did and why it matters to the people or things that matter to the organization. It's just the simple 1-2 punch. Describe in detail what they did and why that behavior matters. Not just thanks for a good job. That's not going to help you. If anything, it can backfire.
Love that. Thanks so much, guys. That was super fun.
Thanks, Chris.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.
We'll be live soon. Appreciate you joining us.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
That was great, guys.